Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang namang sanghang namasami. So I'd like to welcome everyone this evening, offer my greetings. And so I'm finally back. It's taken a lot longer than I expected, but I'm finally back. Though uh, I'm glad for the opportunities I've had so far this year. Um, I've just come from Melbourne. I was watching the monastery of a friend of mine. He was chanting, one of the chanting monks, one of the chanting adjuns at my ordination. I've known him since I was a layman at Wat Nanachat, and he's been a friend to me for, since day one. And he was also quite a mentor to me through my junior years, and has always been quite a good influence on me in my monastic life. So I was very grateful to have this opportunity to do something to help him out. And so uh, we were sorting out tickets to fly back because it's quite a long flight from several flights from Melbourne to Winnipeg, and but it wasn't actually as bad as I expected. I've been through a lot longer and harder flights. But we when we were discussing and making plans for trying to figure out the flights, trying to figure out the layovers, because again, it's not the easiest route to figure something out. There's probably not a lot of traffic going back and forth between the two places. And so we were looking at layovers and flights and the length. And one of the things I was saying was when we were discussing this was that I have no problem uh, with a long flight. If it has to be 40 hours, 45 hours, I have no problem. For long layovers, no problem. Luckily it didn't turn out like that, but I was just saying I had no problem. And I was explaining that, for me, I just understand that when, I'm traveling, when I'm flying, I'm going to be uncomfortable. Like my understanding from the minute I leave till the minute I arrive, I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm short and I still find the seats cramped, and you're between people, you never get comfortable, you always get tired and exhausted, you're always on the edge of dehydration and, sitting for long hours. And then, it's just not a comfortable affair. But I go into that and I was explaining that, like, I just understand that. Like, I go in with the attitude of, yeah, this is going to be uncomfortable. So it removes a lot of that mental suffering around it. It removes because so much of that suffering is created in our own minds. There's going to be this physical suffering of it that is just inevitable, cramped and sitting for so long. But so much of the suffering we create around it is just mental. This um just expecting that we're going to be comfortable, or hoping it'll be comfortable, or thinking, oh, it should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. And so going in with this attitude of, yeah, this is how I'm expecting it to be, really removes a lot of the suffering from that. And and so in a lot of our experiences in life, we can really work on uh, our attitude towards things, and especially um, this idea of having the right attitude, the right approach to something. This is something which especially comes up in our meditation. And because so much of meditation and successive meditation can come to our attitude. I remember, one of the things Ajahn Sona has said to us before is that um, over the years, he's noticed that the more and more he meditates and practices, the more he realizes that meditation, especially samadhi, developing that concentration, that tranquility, is really an emotional experience. So it's not just about having the right technique, having this, there's so many techniques out there. And, you find the exact right technique or the exact right circumstances to practice, and and you're going to get success. I mean, those can help, but a lot of it is the attitude we go in towards it. So sometimes we go in with this attitude of really like wanting success, really wanting to achieve something, wanting to get something, or I'm expecting it to be like this. And not and that a lot of times that attitude can be a hindrance instead of, because normally in life, like, you go with the attitude of wanting success, of knowing what you want, going out and getting it. Usually in worldly affairs that really works, that, succeeds. Like, you see about the businessman who, goes out, knows what he's doing, and just pushes till he gets success. Or, someone studying in school, they want this degree and they just, push really hard to get it. And but with meditation, it's not like that. With meditation, we can't bring in those same attitudes. So Ajahn Jayasaro would tell us the story of a disciple of his who was this super successful businessman. And he just, was one of these go-getter, full on effort. And he was very successful in business. He was very successful in other endeavors he did. In another activity he was in, he was ranked, like a physical activity, he was ranked second in the world. But then when he came to meditation and did his first meditation retreat, he had a stroke on his first retreat because he approached it with that same attitude of you can just push and push and push. And so it ends up that becomes a hindrance. I remember when I was a monk living at Lumpur Biek's monastery, and it was during one of the rains retreats, and we had a couple of temporary monks. And one of the temporary monks, you'd almost never see him because he was always in his kuti meditating, and he really wanted to get samadhi. Like, he wanted to develop this level um, of concentration, of absorption. And he was just, he really, really wanted this. And one of the more senior monks at the monastery, who's, has a reputation for being a very good meditator, he was explaining to me, he's like, no, this attitude he's going towards it, this is actually a hindrance. If he has this attitude towards it, he's not actually going to get that samadhi. So you have to and so you have to approach it with the right attitude. So sometimes, we think that, or sometimes you hear like these teachings, especially in Zen, this idea of beginner's mind, and, of going into it, and going into your meditation as if it's your first time. Um, and so the idea of that is to go into it without certain expectations, without that it's got to be like this, it's got to be like that. But it doesn't necessarily mean going blind, going like you've never meditated before, because we learn things, we've learned what works for us, what doesn't work for us, so we've developed this skill. So, you still go in with your skill set, knowing how how to do things, knowing how to deal with the different problems which come up during our meditation, or these different hindrances, but going in with this attitude of, whatever happens, happens. So different teachers over the years have, explained it differently. Like Ajahn Nando was the abbot of Wat Pah Nanachat when I arrived and when I ordained as a novice. And he used to use a couple similes for it. He would say that one of the things is, you have to go in with this attitude. It's okay, even if it takes 100 years to get this, that's okay. And, as long as it takes, that's okay. Because again, we normally want these results quick. We're in a life where in a society right now where, a lot of times we do get results to things very quickly. You can search something on your phone and right away, boom, it comes up with the answer. You know, before, back when I was a kid, you have to go to the library and find the book and then find the answer in the book. But now it's just boom, 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 you've got the answer. Or, even with other things like, you can just quickly order something on your phone and it will deliver it right to your house. So, we do have this nowadays, this expecting quick results. Whereas we've got to go in with the meditation where, you know, as long as it takes to get the results, that's okay. Lumpur Biek, one year he was talking, and in his Dhamma talks, he was talking about with Dhamma practice, you can't predict when you're going to get the results. The results will just come on their own. So sometimes um, we really do that. Like we can set goals, and a lot of things in life, we set goals based on results. So we'll set a goal of, in this amount of time, I want to lose 10 pounds. And it can be very predictable, and you can sit down and do the math. Okay, I need to lose this many calories. And so this, reduce the amount I'm eating by this much, increase the amount I'm exercising by this much. And it gives a fairly predictable result. It's going to be different person by person, but if you follow something like that, you can usually get a fairly predictable result. Whereas with Dhamma practice, it's not like that. And so we can't, say, I'm going to get this result by this time. And so when we do make like determinations, when we do make these like resolutions, in Dhamma practice, we usually make these resolutions about what type of effort we're going to be putting in. So instead of saying, okay, for this rains retreat, I'm going to attain first jhana, we wouldn't say something like that, but we'd make a determination. Okay, for this rains retreat, I'm going to determine to meditate this many hours a day, or I'm going to determine to do this and this in my practice. As far as like the causes, the external things we can control, and then we let the results come on their own. And it's the example I know I always give of planting a seed, and trying to grow a plant. You can put down the causes and conditions for it to grow, but it's going to grow at its own time and its own pace. So, you water it, you give it sunlight, you give it fertilizer, and it'll grow. You can't force it. You can't pull the leaves or pull on the stalk to make it grow faster. It's just going to happen on its own. And, this is the same with us and with our Dhamma practice. But sometimes we can, especially with some of the ways that for lay people to practice, this idea of say like a meditation retreat. And meditation retreats, can be great experiences, in a very controlled environment. You've got all these other people practicing with you, supporting each other. But sometimes when people get on these retreats, they get this really strong, I'm going to accomplish this and this in the retreat. And then, and they can just make themselves miserable instead of actually, relaxing and enjoying their retreat. So like the last time I taught a retreat, um, uh, was at this retreat center here in Manitoba, and the people who came, they all came with this great attitude. Just they really wanted to enjoy the retreat, and they all had a great time. Everyone was smiling, everyone was having a great time, and so yeah, so it was very beneficial. Well, I'm hoping it was beneficial for everyone involved, and um, and so it is important for us to just, you know, um, take our practice nice and steady. Doing retreats is fine, but keeping a consistency to our practice is going to be important. You know, when I was just back in Thailand, Ajahn Sukito, who's I think our most senior Israeli monk, he was giving uh an awada, like a short teaching to the monks, because at Wat Nanachat, every day after the meal, there's a short teaching to the monks and the lay people. Everyone's staying in the monastery. We get together and one of the senior monks gives a short teaching called an awada. And so Ajahn Sukito was giving one about, consistency in practice. And we had had a lot of rain, like an unusual amount of rain for that point of the year. And he was making a simile of Dhamma practice with rain. And he was saying, like with rain, if it rains all at once, you get a big, heavy downpour. And especially in the tropics, you can get this like a big, heavy rain very quickly, and it's over in like an hour, and or sometimes even shorter. And just, but a phenomenal amount of rain comes down. And he was saying the ground doesn't really soak that up. It soaks up some of it, but a lot of it just runs off and turns into runoff going into, ponds and lakes and rivers. But he was saying when you get a slow, steady, consistent rain, it's just slowly raining over a long period of time, and it's that same amount of rain coming down, it's going to much more of it's going to be absorbed by the ground. And he said it in a much more like a poetic way than I'm saying it now. I'm just I'm just summarizing. He's a very poetic monk, and he was saying, but it's like that with, our Dhamma practice. So sometimes if we try to just, jam everything in all at once, we're not going to absorb too much of it. So, if we just listen to, say, for example, we just listen to like 12 hours straight of Dhamma talks, we might not really absorb a lot of what's in those Dhamma talks. But whereas if you, say, listen to those same amount of Dhamma talks over a period of time, one now, one tomorrow, one the next day, and you just have this slow, consistent thing, a lot of times you're going to absorb it a lot better. And it's the same with the meditation. It's important for us to be doing it consistently over a period of time. And then when we do we don't look for those quick results. We look at these results we're getting over a period of time, and you might say, oh, I'm reacting better to this situation than I would have before. Oh, actually, I feel a lot calmer than I was a year before. Or people around me are commenting on how much easier I am to get along with than I was before. And so you might notice these little things, and then congratulate yourself on it. Remember, or at least make note of these little um times, these benefits we are getting from it, these little like achievements, these little successes we have, and that um acknowledging them or congratulating ourselves from them, or even, yeah, just seeing that we're having them, that can lead to more energy, feeling that, oh, I am getting results. Oh, this is going good. This can lead us to more energy in the practice. But going back to the thing about the right attitude, you know, um, especially while we're meditating, the Buddha, he gave this simile. There was this monk, I believe his name was Sona, and he was going really hard. Like he was really meditating like crazy, putting an incredible amount of effort into it. And he'd do walking meditation till his feet bled. There'd be blood on his walking path and everything. And but he wasn't getting any results from it. He wasn't getting the results he expected. He wasn't developing the samadhi. And so he went to go see the Buddha, and was talking to the Buddha about this, and the Buddha gave him the simile of a lute string, which nowadays that would be like a guitar string. And if the string is too tight, we don't get the right sound. But if the string is too loose, we also don't get the right sound. So you've got to find that right balance between not too tight and not too loose. And so it's the same with our practice. When we're meditating, when we're practicing, we've got to find that balance between when we're pushing too hard and when we're not pushing hard enough. So, are we really trying to force the mind to watch the breath? And that again just creates tension, stress. It's not going to allow the mind to relax, to enjoy what it's doing. But if we do the opposite, we just don't do anything. We just sit there, daydreaming and thinking about this, thinking about that. We're not going to get those same successes with our meditation. So we've got to kind of find that balance for ourselves. And a lot of times, we find that balance through trial and error. The same as when someone's tuning a guitar, you see some, they go tight, and then they loosen it a bit, and then they tighten it a bit, and they keep doing it till they get that right spot. And so sometimes with us, we have to do that too. Just find out what that balance is between pushing too hard, not pushing hard enough, and also be open to the fact that it's going to change. So sometimes, we might have to push a little harder. Sometimes we might have to come back a little bit. Um, Ajahn Nando, he used to use this simile that with meditation, with the instead of using the guitar string one, he said it's like having a little puppy in your hand, holding a little puppy, and it's a very hyper little puppy, and it's jumping all over you and trying to lick your face. So to calm it down, you pet it. And he said, you have to get that right balance because if you pet it too hard, you're going to hurt the dog, the puppy. But if you don't pet it hard enough, it's still going to jump around and lick your face. So you just get that right, nice, gentle balance. Um, and so, and that will help lead us to success in our meditation. And again, we can take these same principles of right attitude and apply them to our lives, having these attitude of, you know, you're trying to do something, but yeah, it's uncertain what's going to happen. It's my nay, things are changing, or even with certain situations, like, I was saying with traveling, not going in expecting it to be great, understanding, yeah, I know what this is like, this is going to be hard. Or, some people say in life when they have to go into a tough meeting, just knowing, and with a really difficult person, just knowing, okay, I know this person gets under my skin. I know the stuff they do. So, just preparing yourself for that, being like, okay, this is likely going to happen. So let's be prepared for this and go in with the right attitude and the right way. And so again, when we start working on this, having this right attitude, it can really help us meet with success in our meditation and really reduce a lot of the suffering and discomfort we have in life. So I would like to offer that to everyone as a bit of a reflection this evening.